Well, good morning, good morning. I know all of you are very anxious to go visit with University of Texas Austin and A&M and all the schools that are here today, but I want to start you off with some really important information. How many of you are thinking of going to UT Austin down the line? We'll come along more. Raise your hand. Okay, a few of you. So University of Texas Austin requires a resume as part of your application. So in a way, this is not just for future jobs or future job placement. It's information that can help you right now. For some of you, you're going to be going into careers like nursing or healthcare, and you really need to capture as much of that information in a resume document as you can right now. So again, my name is Dr. LeBron. I kind of want to go through this information quickly and kind of launch and highlight the important areas that you should have in a resume. So I'm going to ask questions, and I kind of want to have feedback from you. I know it's early, but I kind of want to gauge the audience. So how many of you right now would say that you have a resume? Right now, raise your hand if you have a resume, a working resume. Raise them high, I kind of want to see. Okay, a few of you. Okay, what grade would you give your resume right now? What grade? If you had to give it a grade, before I see it, what grade do you think you would give it? About an 80, okay? So most of us have to understand that a resume is a document that you are going to carry for the rest of your life. It is a living document. It is a document that you will continue to make changes to it year and year, month to month, okay? Depending on responsibilities that change for you in your internship or in your job or in your journey academically. So I want to highlight what those areas are. So being that you give your resume an 80, right now, which is okay, that's actually a B, right? So how long do you think it takes an employer, once you're applying for a job and a supervisor, a hiring manager gets your resume, how long do you think it takes that employer to review your resume and the resume of all the other finalists? How long do you think that process takes? About a week, okay? What about you? How long do you think it takes? How long? Take a guess. About 2 weeks? What about you? About 2.5 weeks. So take a look. Take a look. 7 to 9 seconds on average. It only takes 7 to 9 seconds on average for an employer to review a resume from top to bottom. So if it takes 7 to 9 seconds for someone to review your resume, to kind of get a full view of where you've been and who you are and how talented you are as a candidate, if it's only 7 to 9 seconds and it's being scanned, how does that document need to look like? It has to be very clearly defined. Exactly, it has to be excellent. It has to be so excellent, can't be in an 80, it has to be so excellent that it has to compete and stand out from the other applicants that are there. And that's if your resume is on paper. Because most of the time, right now in 2018, guess what? No one's touching your resume anymore. It's digital. LinkedIn is digital through scanning systems. There are computer software companies that actually scan that resume and looks for the keywords and the job functions of that job, and it's trying to pair it based on your experience, and it generates a report, and it comes back with percentages as to how you match that job. So that's even if you get to someone's hands in 7 to 9 seconds, just imagine if it's being scanned digitally. So the document really needs to be sharp. It has to be organized. It has to be clearly defined. So if you have a resume, you have to make sure that it contains these major elements, that it has your contact information, and that it has professional contact information. So here's a resume that I got to read last week. And at the top of the email, and I'm going to make this email up because it wasn't there, but it was littleprincess42@gmail.com. Right? Littleprincess42@gmail.com is an email, right? It works for the student, but in many ways, is it professional? I wouldn't want to email someone at that, right? So these are little things that you can do now. So take a look at your profile, take a look at your email, take a look at your address. Make sure that it's well written, that it stands out from the top. So you want to have your name, your full address, your best contact phone number, and your email, okay? And make sure that it's a professional email. So if you don't have a professional one, make sure that you use like your first initial and last name and create an account just for professional service. You also want to include a job objective. And a job objective is the goal of what you want to attain from that company. So one of the things that I share with students is every company, every place that has a job that's being offered always has what's called a mission and a vision statement. And what I would do, let's say you want to work for UPS, and you look at UPS and you look at the mission and vision statement for UPS, you can use those statements to try to create your job objective. So I could say, to obtain a position where I can utilize my strengths and unique skills as a business manager or as a project manager to work within the logistics management industry. But I would not just keep it general, I would then try to tie keywords from that mission and vision statement and make it stronger. What happens if an employer for that agency sees that you're tying your job objective to the mission and vision statement of that company? What do you think is going to happen? They're going to want you. Why? Because you took the time to go in and take a look at the mission and vision statement for that company. Okay, so job objective is very important. Another thing is your skills. What are important skills that we all should have in a resume? Can anyone just give me some names of things that we can have in a resume from a skill standpoint? Let me hear it. Leadership. What else? Fast learner. How can you quantify fast learner? It's a great skill, right? Fast learner, but how do I measure fast learner, right? What's that? Volunteer hours, but I'm going to go back to fast learner because it's a good one, but in many ways what we want to do is make sure that what we place can be measured, can be reviewed. So if I'm a fast learner, in the body of the resume, I want to have how I have been, how I have excelled academically, how I have been a fast learner, how I have adapted and have captured a lot of different concepts by balancing different subjects, leadership opportunities, and volunteering. Right? So there should be, I agree, a section about volunteering because that highlights leadership and that highlights what? That you're a fast learner. Okay? Other areas and skills are project management, if you've been able to balance multiple projects at the same time. What about collaborativeness? Right? Team collaboration. How many of you would say that you have been involved in some sort of group class project at some point in your journey in high school? Raise your hand if you've been in some sort of school class project. So that means that you have collaborated with others. You want to showcase how open you are to not only working individually, but working comfortably with others. The next thing that you want to have is that education. So think about education. Right now, your resume should have Montgomery High School, right? And your GPA, your major, if you're interested in a major, or anything that's honors, anything that's representing you from a scholastic point of view. Once you transfer to a university, once you go on to a four-year university, the first adjustment that I want you to do in your resume is go ahead and put the name of that university on that resume above your high school. Once you do that, you're going to put the expected graduation date next to that college or university name. Why should you put the expected graduation date of the university in your resume? Why? What does that let an employer know? It lets them know that you're a student, but if you put an expected graduation date, does it make you a serious student? Right? It doesn't keep you as a regular student. Oh, I'm at A&M. It says expected graduation date. I'm at Texas A&M University, mechanical engineering major. Expected graduation would say fall or spring 2022. When you do that, it lets the employer know you're a current student, but it's also saying that you're projecting graduation. You're not just there, but you're projecting graduation. So eventually, you choose a format. Your resume should always have the most recent information, and then you work your way backwards, chronologically. Okay? You want to always talk about those strengths. Think about the strengths that you carry. You don't want to use general terms like, team worker or, good communicator. Anything that makes you unique as an individual, you want to highlight that information. Because remember, 7 to 9 seconds, I want to be able to see how quickly can she adapt to the different projects that I am going to deliver or I'm going to provide. How can she lead? Has she overcome any type of adversity? How strong is she? How is her academic record? So these are things that you want to think about, making sure that you highlight those areas. Here's an example of a skill summary section. I want you guys to take a look. The first bullet from a skill summary, what is it starting out with? It says what? Over 5 years experience. So eventually, I'm letting the employer know that I have experience, that I can hit the ground running. Okay? Eventually, you guys will get to that point where you're going to be able to say over a certain amount of years, but you want to highlight that because most jobs, if you look at jobs at this point forward in your career as students, you'll notice most jobs will say some sort of years of experience required. So you kind of want to match it. If you don't have it, fine, just jump into with your strengths that you carry as a student. Okay? Ability to work in teams and individually. Most jobs are going to want to see that you can do both, that you're adaptable as a candidate. If you speak multiple languages, you want to highlight that. That's unique, that's a strength, that's a skill. And technology. When you put technology, try to avoid, I'm proficient with computer technology. Kind of highlight what it is that you are interested in. Some of you, like you said, there was a gentleman, you're a business major, and you're going to go in accounting. If you go in accounting, then you want to talk about access database management or QuickBooks or anything that's current that allows you to showcase your proficiency in whatever your major is. Education, at this point, you want to highlight your high school. As soon as you find out what university you're going to go to and you're taking classes at that school, you want to also list that university. As you graduate with your bachelor's degree and move on to get your master's or your doctorate down the line, then your high school stuff falls off. Your high school information falls off unless you've been a part of a magnet program or a specialized leadership program, and you want to keep it as long as you can. But the more education you add, the more that information ends up coming out. This is an example. This is not the way it's going to look in your resume. This is just from an information standpoint. For one of our students in the RADTech program, the person is putting their GPA, what school are they at, what program are they completing. And if your GPA is above a 3.0, put it in the resume. If it's below a 3.0, leave it off. Okay? So you always want to have that, showcase that academic performance if it's above a 3.0. Okay? Your resume should always have detailed information of where you work. So if I work at Kroger, I'm not just going to put Kroger supermarket and then the years and the time I've been there. You want to be specific. Kroger Incorporation or Kroger Corporation, the full address, and then the time that I was there, the month and the year. If you don't have the month, then at least the year from where you started to where you end, or when you started to the present time. You always want to list the top 5 duties that you can from that job. Instead of making your resume from scratch, you could always Google the position that you're working. So if I'm working at Starbucks and I'm a barista at Starbucks, I could literally go to Google Starbucks barista job description. And I can get a full job description from Starbucks company letting me know exactly what I do. And you can use that job description and add that to your resume. So you don't have to make this up. From a memory standpoint, you can always pull that from any job description that relates to your job. Here's a section on work experience. It should look something like this. If you notice, you'll notice that every job description will always start with the job function's action verbs. So in this case, you'll notice here that this person, as a medical assistant, records medical information, prepares treatment plans, interviews applicants, and you notice that these are all action verbs. So you always want to make sure if you don't have action verbs in your resume, you definitely want to add that and you'll bump it immediately. You'll bump it up above a 90. Okay? So if you're currently in the job, you want to keep those in the present tense. If you are no longer in the job, you did the job in the past, then these change from present, sorry I keep getting in the middle here, you go to the past. So recorded, prepared, interviewed, authorized, so on and so on. So you want the document to match whether you're in the job or you're previously finished the job. So this resume document is all about you. It's all about showcasing yourself. It's all about selling yourself from a skills standpoint, documenting the strengths that you carry as a future leader or even as a current student. So you definitely want to make sure that that information from an involvement standpoint, honor society, or Nu Alpha Theta Math Society, or any of these areas, you want to showcase that as close to the top of the document as possible at this point in your journey. Okay? Resume should be very easy to read. Always try to use high-grade paper. Don't try to use the printer paper that you find in your class printer. Spend a couple of dollars, go to resume, get a resume paper from Office Max or Office Depot. It's high-grade. Feel it to the touch, put it to the light, it's a watermark. always go white or off-white, ivory. Don't go any other color. No gray, no hot pink, no neon green, no picture, no splatter graphics everywhere. Keep it simple. White or ivory white, okay? You want to be very professional in this document. This is not the time to kind of, I helped a lot of people, or I volunteered at the YMCA. You don't want any loose terms, you want to be specific. I performed the duties of a team leader in a youth camp at the YMCA from this time to this time. You want to be specific, you don't want to leave anything loosely in that document. Lastly is your reference page, okay? References are important. A lot of times you'll see people put at the bottom of a resume, references available upon request. We try to tell students to go away from that and actually list full references. So you got a teacher, a professor, or someone that can speak about who you are as a leader, that can speak for your character. You want to list those individuals there. Before you list someone as a reference, you want to get permission from that person. You will not believe how many people thinking that they're going to get a good reference. You call, they get a call. I don't know this girl. I don't know who you're talking about. She was horrible. You don't want that. If someone's calling about a reference, that means you're almost being ready to being offered the job. So secure the references. Get it from someone that can speak professionally about you, about your character and your leadership. Okay? So you don't want to use I coordinated, I helped, I raised money. You want to definitely stay away from those I statements. You want to do an overview profile of who you are and represent you as a candidate. Lastly, interview skills. What you want to do with an interview skill is you want to look your best. Like I will not, go wearing the clothes that I would just normally wear to go out and hang out. I will look my best, okay? So have that one outfit, ladies and gentlemen, have that one outfit that you have that represents who you are. Here's a rule that I've always used. I would rather always overdress than underdress. I would rather go overdressed because I know I got it. There's no way that I can go above that, right, if I'm overdressed. But if I'm underdressed and everybody else is overdressed, I'm at a disadvantage. So I'm always going to overdress. So gentlemen and ladies, make sure that it's professional dress, right? So these are the guidelines. The generation has shifted, right? So a lot of folks now are more contemporary, more alternative as it relates to tattoos and things of that nature. Cover as much as you can. Be as professional as you can. Land the job, and then you look for the flexibility behind it. Okay? So you want to be as universal of an appeal as you can from a positive standpoint. Okay? So you want to look your best. You don't want to look like this guy. Okay? This guy is partying too much on 6th Street. He's trying to he didn't wake up until he didn't have good breakfast. You always want to start off by preparing a couple of days before or sometime ahead from an interview standpoint. The last thing I want to do is try to do the stuff that I need to do the morning of the interview. So I would visit the area, take a look at where things are, look my best, make sure that that your appearance is immaculate, right? That you are coming in, hi, I'm Dr. LeBron, it's a pleasure meeting you. Hi, I'm Dr. LeBron, it's a pleasure meeting you. Hi, I'm Dr. LeBron. I'm making eye contact, strong handshake, I'm arriving early, not late. All of those things you're being looked at. In many ways, interviews, they're looking at you as, in many ways, from the moment you leave your car and you're in the parking lot coming into the institution, in that job, you are being watched. I had an employee, someone that interviewed and didn't get the job, that treated the front office staff kind of in a bad way. And word got quickly to our hiring committee, and you know what we did with that? We put it to the side immediately, right? Because that's future influence of how that person could act in the future role of the company. So you definitely always want to be ready, treat everyone with respect, everyone that you connect, and be ready to get that job. From the moment you leave your house, all the way until you get and you land that job. Make sure that you don't have any lack of confidence and that you have a clear view of where you are today and where you want to go in the future. What are your 5-year goals? What are your 10-year goals? Where do you want to be? Okay? So these are definitely things that you want to practice for. Practice is always going to make you better. It is always going to make you a stronger candidate. If I ask you the question, why should we hire you? How would you respond to that question? Respond right now. Why should we hire you as a candidate? I know I got you right on the spot. weren't expecting. Why should we hire you as a candidate? What's your major, brother? What's your major? What do you Rheumatology, okay, so you want to go to medical school. So why should we accept you as a medical school student here at Berkeley? Why? I know I put you on the spot, but it's a simple question, right? Why should we hire you? Why should we accept you as a medical school student? These are questions that take a lot of time for us to reflect. So I know I put you probably in the spot, and I didn't mean to do that, but it's an example of a lot of times we think, oh, I got this. Oh, I can tell anybody about why I want to be a rheumatologist and why I want to go to medical school. But in many ways, these questions take time for us to reflect and to pull out those strengths. Now, probably more than likely in a closed setting, we would jump on that question right away. And if it was a little later, probably, right? But right now, in front of everyone, still, if you're in a panel interview, you get the same effect. So preparing for tough questions is key. Knowing your background, knowing your strength, knowing why this medical school should accept you or this job should hire you to help elevate that company to heights. Okay? So practice is going to make you better. The phones that we have, these smartphones, one of the things that I have students do, record themselves. Have someone interview you, record it, and then watch it. And then watch it and play it back. And you'll get instant feedback. And then process that with whoever was with you, interviewing you. And then the more questions that you ask yourself, the stronger that you will become as a candidate. Okay? So you definitely want to make sure that you are ready to deliver on that question. Whether it's why should we hire you, or if it's the question of can you share a challenge that you have faced in the past, how did you overcome that challenge, and how has that made you a stronger person today? So if I ask that question, you got to be ready, right? So can you please share about a challenge that you have overcome in your past? How did you overcome that challenge? And how does that make you a stronger candidate? You don't have to answer. But you see, you feel the level of stress a little bit coming, like, okay, he's looking at me, he's asking me this question. The employers want to do the same thing. They want to get and connect with you to see how you're going to respond. Most questions in our interview are going to be behavioral questions. You are going to be presented with situations and how do you overcome with those situations. So ultimately, what you want to do is prepare. Make sure that you practice. Take the advantage that you have right now to project how those interviews are going to go and how to be the best candidate that you can be in that setting. I'm kind of going through these quickly because of time, but questions that you'll notice is tell me about yourself. Why should we hire you? Tell me about your career goals. If you can't tell me or anyone, where do you see yourself 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? These are things that you may want to start writing down and kind of practicing in front of the mirror or recording yourself to articulate that process. Okay? So this is all I wanted to share with you guys today from a resume and interview standpoint, the major highlights. Any questions about this process? Any questions that any of you have based on this information? Questions? So what I want to do is wish you guys a wonderful rest of your day. If there are no other questions, I'm going to get ready for the next room. Check in with your guidance counselors here. We are in the Transfer Recruitment and Career Center at Lone Star. If any of you are going to connect with Lone Star Montgomery, we'd love to definitely highlight more of this career planning information. Take care, guys.